Welcome to Ask Pastor Craig, and today's question is, I say my kids should come first, and my spouse says our marriage should come first. Who is right? Just a small question today. Well, I'm going to have to say your spouse is right. Your marriage should come first, but let's add a whole lot of context. Please don't click off yet because I want you to think about this differently. Oftentimes, this question comes up for married couples with younger kids or just kids in the home still in general. And there's this tension of my kids have all these needs, and my spouse says our marriage needs work, but I don't have time. And so I have to put the kids first, and that means my spouse has to come second. And my encouragement is that you actually put your marriage first so that you can put the kids first. Now, let me explain that. God designed two to become one in marriage. And then he said, be fruitful and multiply. And so you have gotten married and you've pledged before God, man, that this person is my everything, that they're my ride or die, that I'm with them in life, that I am no longer my own, but they are mine and I am theirs. And we are two becoming one flesh. Now, if you're not a Christian, you might be listening to this and think, yeah, right. Well, guess what? The world's version of marriage is failing crazy. Let's give God's version of marriage where two become one, same team, same effort, pulling in the same direction, the best they can to then build a home out and be fruitful and multiply and have these kids. If you decide, hey, I'm going to put my kids before my spouse every single time, then it puts them last and it will lead you into a bad space. Your kids' needs might be met, but your marriage needs won't be. And here's my challenge. I actually think the number one thing kids need is a whole home, a healthy home. And so if you put your marriage first and then two become one, and you guys get on the same page emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, and raising them kids, then you can start to put the kids first together. I think sometimes this question is rooted in, well, I'm doing everything, and so it's either I pick A or B. And if that's where this question comes from, there's some fundamental problems in that marriage, because a marriage is not supposed to be, I'm doing all this and you're whining over here and the kids are whining over here, so I have to pick them over you because if I don't change that diaper, if I don't feed them, they're going to die and I have to fix that. Their physical needs are more pressing. Marriage was meant to be this, we choose one another and then together we go and attack this problem. So if you're a spouse that feels like, hey, my spouse constantly picks the kids over me, I want to challenge you to look and say, am I in the parenting battle with them? Am I in the grind with them? And what you might find is with some self-reflection that, you know what, I've been putting a lot of that on my spouse, so they feel alone, and it makes them feel like I either pick the kids or pick me because we don't do this thing together. And I want to challenge you in that and say, what if you looked at the parenting thing as a team activity? Now, some of you might be responsible for A, someone might be responsible for B. You have a delegation of duties and that kind of thing, but that you would put the marriage first so that you could put the kids first, that you would put the marriage first so that the home stayed healthy and whole for the children. And so you put your marriage at the core and said, we've got to be on the same page. We've got to be emotionally one, spiritually one, physically one, financially one. We've got to be on the same page. So we're going to put our marriage first. So we're going to do what we have to do to be one. We're going to go get counseling if we need it. We're going to take those dates night if we need it. We're going to make sure we have a firm bedtime for the kids so we can actually talk in the evenings and get on the same page. We're going to keep a calendar app. We're going to do everything we need to do to keep our marriage healthy and whole. We're going to take that pottery class together. We're going to learn Spanish together. We're going to go salsa dancing. We're going to go on a vacation. We're going to take a night away and use the grandparents to watch the kids. Whatever you have to do to keep your marriage whole and your home healthy, but then out of that wholeness, out of that health, you attacked together the project, the process, the joy of raising your children. You see how if we reframe it, it's not do I pick my kids or do I pick my spouse, but rather it's I'm going to pick my spouse because we're on the same team and then we're going to work together. And then out of the overflow of love I have for this person, I'm going to serve our family and our kids and them together. But I'll just say this. If you neglect your marriage, if you neglect your spouse, even for a good thing that is children, your marriage will fail. It will crumble. It'll falter. We see this all around. But if you put your marriage at the center and you honor your spouse and you walk with them in this joy of raising kids, I actually think you can still meet almost all of your kids' wants, and you'll certainly meet all their needs because you'll have a partner in it together. So if you're sitting there thinking it's got to be my kids or my spouse, I want to challenge you to think, what if it's my spouse and then we raise the kids together? That the marriage does need to be central. But if you're also on the other side and you're thinking my spouse constantly picks my kids over me, it might be because you are not in the parenting battle with them. But if you have two adults committed to one another, committed to their marriage, committed to loving one another and putting it at the centerpiece, and then saying, hey, we made these kids, let's raise these kids together. We made them together. Let's raise them together. Let's attack this journey together, and let's figure out what you're good at, and let's figure out what I'm good at, and let's delegate. And hey, you've got to be to work here at this time, so I'm going to do this thing, and I've got to be to work here, or I've got this thing here, so you need to do this, or you need to help the kids with this, but that you're doing it together. And then suddenly it is not I'm picking the kids over you. It is I'm serving and raising the kids with you, with our marriage at the core. And then guess what's going to happen when those kids leave? Because that's ultimately what you want. A healthy family sends their children off into this world, raises them up to send them off. And then guess what's going to happen? You're not going to get 20 years down the road, 25 years down the road after all the kids leave and say, who are you? Oh, you're the person that's been doing their own thing for 20 years. You're the person that's been, I don't even know you. Instead, you're going to say, man, what an adventure that was. What do we want our next adventure to be? Now we have more time. Now we have more energy to do the different things that we want. What do we want our next adventure to be? Because we've kept our marriage healthy and whole and at the center. And this major group project we had, raising these kids, is done. It's complete. The work is turned in. What do we want our next adventure to be? So I guess that's my challenge. It's not my kids must come first, my spouse must come first. It's put the marriage central so that together you then raise those kiddos together. I hope this helps.